Hello, Jason here. I hope everyone out there is healthy and is doing well. I'm here doing another book review. Today I'm going to talk about Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. Um, yeah, it's a classic, and there's a reason. It was really good. Um, yeah, really good. And I don't know why it took me so long to read this book. It's been on my um, to be read shelf for a while, and I've been trying to get through some of these classics. Like last year I read The Exorcist. Maybe that was 2 years ago, which is also an amazing book. But yeah, I finally got around to it, and it was great. Um, just quick kind of plot sort of summary, some setup. It's about a girl and her husband. Her name's Rosemary Woodhouse, and her husband, his name's Guy. He's an actor, and they move into this like nice apartment because he's starting to make do well as an actor and stuff. And it's kind of like an old building. It's got a lot of history. Not all of it good. There's some like weird sort of deaths that occurred and stuff, but whatever. It's a really nice place. So they move in, and yeah, and then they meet their neighbors and whatever, and like they start to make friends around there and stuff, and then they want to have a baby. So that's the setup. And I mean, if you don't know what Rosemary's Baby is about in 2020, I don't know where you've been for the last 50 years, but yeah, it gets really dark and weird. It's about like witchcraft and um, yeah, it's really crazy. And so when I was reading this, I knew what this story was about basically. Like I had seen the movie uh, years ago, like when I was in high school or something. So it's probably been about 15 years or so since I've seen the movie, but I remembered the basics. I remembered the basic plot, but I didn't really remember like how it ended or much of the like details within the story. So there were a few things that still caught me off guard. I wish that I hadn't known anything about it, because I think a lot of the tension from this comes from not knowing like who to trust and who is part of this like grand conspiracy. Because basically what happens is Rosemary, her neighbors are like part of this like satanic cult, and they like get they get Rosemary pregnant with Satan's baby through nefarious means. They like drug her and make her and like yeah impregnate her with Satan's baby, and then but she doesn't know that this is going on, and then she eventually she they make her go to this special doctor, and they make her take these like weird like supplemental herb mixture thing that's really creepy, and like her neighbors are just like really, I don't know, they're like it's really just weird and kind of gross. But the whole thing is told through Rosemary's perspective, and she's just thinking like, oh, they're so nice, these people are so nice to me, they care about me, and they want to like make sure my baby's okay, so they're doing all this stuff. Like this, my neighbor across the street, she makes me this special like herbal drink every day, and it's supposed to be really good. My doctor is like friends with them, so like whatever. And like, but then her husband starts to do weird stuff, like just acting funny and like being crazy. And like one of the main kind of plot points is like he's an actor, right? So he's trying out for this part, and it's between him and this other guy. I can't remember the other guy's name. Something weird. So the other guy gets the part, and then then he goes and he talks to the neighbors who are witches. We don't know they're witches, but he goes and talks to the neighbors who are witches, and the next day he finds out that the guy who got the part was stricken blind suddenly, and so then he gets this part that he wanted. And at first you're like, oh well, whatever, like kind of what he says in the story. He's like, well, it's a bad way to get it, but at least I got it. But then you find out later that he like made a deal with these witches and stuff. And the deal was that he would give them he would let his wife give birth to this Satan child. So it's really screwed up. And Rosemary is like kind of in the center of this whole thing, being used by this cult to bring about like this antichrist apocalyptic figure. And it all kind of comes to a head at the end when she figures out what's going on, and she's like full on pregnant, like about to have this baby, when she finally gets wise to it. And then there's this like kind of like she has the baby. They try to tell her that it's dead, that it died during childbirth, but then she finds out that they took it and they're like planning to raise it, and it's Satan's baby or whatever. So she goes and she there's this big confrontation. I guess I won't spoil the very, very end, but that's basically the gist. And like I said, if you've seen the movie, because okay, so after I finished the book, I was like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna watch the movie again. I watched it right away, and just to see how different they are, how much like my memory of the movie is true, because like I said, it had been a while since I'd seen it. So I watched it, and it is super faithful. Like it's the book on film. It's like most of the dialogue is taken straight out of the book. Every major story beat. There's maybe a couple of things that they glossed over in the movie, but it is pretty much just a straight up. It's probably the most faithful book adaptation I've ever seen. And it's really good too. Yeah, the only thing I think that the book does a lot better than the movie is just the fact that you're in Rosemary's head during the book. So you get to hear her like inner kind of turmoil and struggle about like, oh, that's kind of weird that they're doing that, but I guess I'll just trust my doctor. Or like there's this one section during her pregnancy where she's like got this horrible pain, like or whatever in her uterus or whatever, and so she goes to her doctor and she's like, it hurts really bad, and he's like, yeah, this is normal, it's just your hips or whatever, it'll go away in a couple days. And then like a week later it's not better, it's worse. So she goes back and he's like, yeah, it'll go away in a couple days, just keep taking your weird herb drink that Minnie gives you. Minnie's the neighbor, and it'll go away in a couple of weeks. And and it just like doesn't go away, even though he keeps telling her that it will, for like months. And then eventually she's like, I don't trust this doctor. He's doing something fishy. Like if it hurts this bad, there's got to be something wrong. So she wants to go get a second opinion from another doctor or something. And then at that moment when she's like making the decision to do that, all of a sudden the pain goes away, and the rest of her pregnancy is totally fine and normal, and she feels good. And so it's weird. Stuff like that. Weird. Anyway, yeah, so her internal monologue is neat, and then at the end there's a part where, she sees the baby and it's like all deformed, not really deformed I guess, but it's like half Satan. And she's like, oh my god, what's wrong with it? And like, they don't really show this in the movie because there's no way to really do it, but in her head she's thinking about what she should do. And she's thinking like, she's got a knife or whatever, she's like, man, I could just kill all these people, I could take the baby, I could jump out the window, kill the baby, kill myself, problem solved. That's not what she ends up doing, but I thought that was like a really cool part in the story, where you hear her like trying to decide what to do about it. And yeah, she's in a tough spot. She really like doesn't have much control over her, she doesn't have much agency in her pregnancy from the get-go. her husband is really controlling. These like neighbors and the doctor are really controlling. The doctor even tells her like, don't talk to your friends who've been pregnant. Every pregnancy is different, so don't talk to them. They'll just get you worried. And don't read books because you'll just get worried about stuff. And it's just like really creepy and weird. So yeah, there's like you get this sense of like people are lying to her and people are like using her and stuff from basically the beginning of the book, and it really, really culminates in the last like 50 pages. It's like really, really cool, and the climax is great. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Especially now, granted, if you've watched this video, you now know exactly what happens. But if you don't know anything about Rosemary's Baby, or if you know someone out there who's never seen it, doesn't know anything about it, make them read this book before, or I guess they can watch the movie too. But it's really good and it's really creepy, and especially if you don't know anything about it, I feel like that would just be like the best way to experience it. It's hard. I mean, there's probably not that many people out there in this day and age that don't know anything about Rosemary's Baby. So because it's such a like part of our culture. But anyway, yeah, really enjoyed it. So Rosemary's Baby, if you haven't read it, pick it up. Even if you have seen the movie, whatever, it's good. It is really good. So yeah, that's kind of what I got. If anyone else has any thoughts on the book or the movie or whatever, leave something in the comments. You know, I always respond, and I like to have little discussions and stuff like that. That's kind of fun for me. So yeah, and you know, if you like content like this, like and subscribe. I'm going to continue to do book reviews, and the next video is probably going to be the next part of my Stephen King reading project. I've been kind of plugging away on those, so look forward to that. And yeah, that's all I got for today. Stay healthy, guys. Peace.